This presentation deals with Standard 5, and the case study focuses on internet use violations, threats over the World Wide Web. So from this case study, what is it that I know? First off, we know that Ms. Walker is still a beginning teacher. She teaches a high level of biology and science related classes, also teaching at a very affluent school. We also have several examples of how she has maybe more of a high stress classroom, and that concerns in regards to this have been expressed by both parents and students. And then kind of the real situation with this case study is that she has been threatened online via a website that's been created. And then kind of one of the other main key players in here is Dr. Forbes, who is a veteran principal. He's been a principal for 9 years, very well respected. A few years back had been acknowledged as Principal of the Year. So what do we need to know still? I think one of the things we need to focus on is just what other problems have maybe recently occurred in Ms. Walker's classroom, whether that be something minor or major, or just any complaints maybe that she has received from students or parents and didn't maybe think twice about it until now. Also kind of just knowing in general what students or parents seem to have the biggest grievances with Ms. Walker, who has voiced their concerns either to her or administration. And I think that we also need to know some more in-depth knowledge about the email as well as the website. With today's world, it should be really fairly easy to see at least the IP address in wherever this was created at, and then getting that information to the right people should kind of help us narrow down our search for who has created this website. And so the problem, I feel like it kind of starts out with the basis that Ms. Walker's been approached by Dr. Forbes in regards to changing some of her classroom techniques just to kind of be more student friendly and help create a little less stressful of an environment. And we also know that the main problem in this case study is that Ms. Walker feels that she has been threatened through this email and website that has been created. And then Dr. Forbes is faced with the situation. How does he approach it? How is he going to handle this? So first, looking at what my plan of action would be, I would say first we need to have the IT staff or some outside source do some research on the origin of that website and email. Like I stated earlier, I think that should be something fairly easy to do, and that would kind of help us narrow down maybe who we're looking at to help remedy the situation. Also, I think it's important to have Ms. Walker recount any minor or major problems that she's recently had in her classroom. She states that she feels Randy Franks is probably the culprit in this, but I think it's important to look outside of him and think who else maybe could have been part of this. Also, at some point, I think it is important to validate Ms. Walker's concerns and do have a chat with Randy Franks, as well as just talking to some other students in Ms. Walker's class. This might give us some more insight that we haven't previously been aware of or thought of. So how will I implement the plan? First, just having that IT staff gather and share any information that they have found out. And then kind of a result of this might be that you have to get law enforcement involved. Situations like this on the internet are very serious, especially when it involves kind of threatening. She felt like her life was threatened, so I think it might be something that you have to consider. I would also have maybe Ms. Walker create a logbook for each day of maybe the previous 2 weeks, and just jotting down notes for any situations that have recently occurred, making sure to tell me student names, then as well as how did she handle that situation. This might give us better understanding of what's been occurring in her classroom and who might have some issues with her. And then kind of the last part of implementing the plan is to talk with Randy Franks and some other classmates or people who are in Ms. Walker's class. just by asking maybe some general questions in regards to their feelings about Miss Walker's class, and just see kind of, get some feedback from them. How do they feel things are going in her class? Is it still a high stress situation, and just hopefully get them to be able to open up and share some of what's occurring inside her classroom. So as we think about resolving the issue, it's really important that we're still focusing on the students, and especially having our students be successful. And that's why I start out by saying, well, yes, Miss Walker, she feels very certain that it is Randy Franks. I think it's important that we don't jump to any conclusions and, think of, what negative effect could this have on Randy if Miss Walker was incorrect in her conclusion. So just keeping that open mind is going to help keep the success of our students there at the forefront. Also, by having the IT department do some investigating, I think this could also help prevent a huge misunderstanding with just blaming kind of the wrong person for this incident, and this would also be a benefit. At the same time, I feel that a death threat, it is very serious. So maybe, just kind of be cautious in how you approach the situation as far as the students are concerned. We don't need to probably inform them fully of the situation and why things are getting questioned of them or with Miss Walker, because, the death threat is serious. And if it's legitimate, it could be not only towards Miss Walker, but also maybe others in the school. So just keeping it cautiously to how much you let the students in on the situation. And just from the case study, kind of other things we need to think about. We know that Randy is not the only student or even parent to actually have some issues with Miss Walker. So just keeping that in mind as we're looking at all of the possibilities here. I also feel that accusing a student of making a death threat and making this very hurtful website, it's a very serious accusation, and so we just want to be careful before jumping on the bandwagon of blaming a certain person for this. Also, I feel that by gathering just some general information from the students in regards to Miss Walker's class will hopefully give us a better idea of kind of the climate in there, how things are going, who maybe does have those grievances and problems with her. So with this situation, as I was thinking through it, kind of deciding how do I feel, how am I going to approach it, I first think that we very much have to validate Miss Walker's feelings of being, her life threatened, that this is very serious, and we can't take that lightly. She obviously, didn't feel comfortable to even stay in her own home, was willing to drive 3 hours back to her parents, so this is a very serious situation. Secondly, though, just from what the case study said, I feel as an administrator, my first line of action probably wouldn't be talking to the student. I feel like from the case study I got that that's what Dr. Forbes would kind of do. He said the next day we'll talk to Randy, talk to some others. And I don't necessarily feel that that would be the first thing I would want to do. Like I've stated previously, I think there are things, the IT people could do to help give us some better information and a more informed decision of who do we maybe need to discuss this situation with. And I feel like they are jumping to conclusions by narrowing it down to one student, with Randy kind of being their go-to person. I think they have to look at other students as well as, even a parent could have done this. It's fairly easy, to make a website, send an email. So I think you have to keep all of your options open for maybe who is responsible for this. Like I guess I already previously mentioned, I think it should be easy to narrow down, either from the IT people or even her email company, where the email at least was sent. And I feel that this would be my first step in approaching this situation to then kind of further narrow down who do I need to talk to, who needs to be involved, was it a student, was it a parent, is it a totally other outside person, do we need to get law enforcement involved? And I think that this being the first step would kind of better help us approach this situation. Then as far as kind of what unresolved issues do we still have? I really feel like kind of the underlying and why this all started is because Miss Walker does have a high stress classroom. And she's been talked to about it before, but it seems that she just has an inability to make any changes. And so this probably, is keeping students unhappy, parents unhappy, and just an unresolved issue that she's going to have to face. Also, if it does turn out that a student is responsible for the email and web page, there's going to have to be some type of punishment. I would say focus on digital citizenship, and just follow any policies and procedures that your school might already have in regards to this. And also it might need to be more of an in-depth policy created in regards to threatening staff members via the internet and things like that. It might not be an issue that you had previously thought about, but probably something that definitely needs to have kind of some clear-cut ways to handle the situation and consequences for it. So looking more at Standard 5, demonstrating just kind of that integrity and ethical behavior. I feel that it's important that both the students and staff realize that this is being taken as a very serious situation, and how it's handled will more than likely kind of set a precedent for any other future similar incidents, because it doesn't have to be a website created. It could just be a Facebook post, a tweet, things like that. Also, I think it's important to keep an open mind and listen to all sides of the story instead of just jumping on that blame game bandwagon that it could only be, this certain student. Also, as we look at Standard 5, it's important to make sure that we are treating everybody fairly and with dignity and respect. So I think one of the ways this can be done is by simply looking at all of the possibilities to who could have created the email and website, as well as acknowledging Ms. Walker's concern and not just taking the situation as a joke. That's going to show that you have respect for her and value kind of her thoughts and opinions. Also, at some point, you are more than likely going to have to question some students, so it's going to be important that the conversations that are held, that they happen fairly and equitably, and that everybody just is on the same page and realizes, there's mutual respect here between all parties. And then lastly, demonstrating personal and professional code of ethics. This is, I feel, a very serious situation, and so just approaching it with the right mindset and having a game plan will just help kind of demonstrate that you have these ethics and values. As well as keeping all of those that are involved in this situation, the key players, whether it has to be law enforcement, if you have to get parents involved, just keeping them in the loop of what's going on and what the process is and how the situation will continue to be dealt with.